I'll tell you, there's so many incredible restaurants here in Billings, and especially if you want to get out and have a good steak, have a great meal, there's some incredible places across our state. Had some friends come to town from Bozeman and Austin, Texas. Of course, there's some great restaurants in Bozeman and in Austin, Texas as well. They said, hey, we want to go all out. We want to have a great steak. I said, okay, I got an idea. Let's try this out. So here we are, Aaron Flint. We're back here with you for the Billings Chamber Ag Celebration Week. Thanks to our friends at the Yellowstone Valley Electric Cooperative. I took them to the Buffalo Block in the historic Rex Hotel building here right in the heart of downtown Billings. They call it the Buffalo Block for a reason, by the way. In fact, right out front, you can see some of the very bricks that came out of this building that have the words Buffalo Block. That's how they used to pave streets back in the old days. So that's where the name Buffalo Block came from. You can see some of those historic blocks right out in front of this historic Rex building that is home to the new Buffalo Block. Today, we're going to give you cowboys a steak that you're definitely going to like. It's a cowboy ribeye. Plus, forget a New York strip, we're doing a Kansas City strip. They're using prime beef. Now, you ranchers out there know the difference between choice beef. This is prime beef. Not only do they dry age it, or not only do they wet age it, they dry age the beef as well. So let's take you into our next cool kitchen here in Billings for Ag Celebration Week. Well, before we take you inside the kitchen of the Buffalo Block here, why don't we talk to the general manager? He's worked in some incredible restaurants all over the country. Now we've got one right here in Billings, Montana. You know, we're in the heart of beef country. So Mitch, this really is great to be able to feature such incredible beef right here in the heart of beef country.
I agree. We're blessed to have the product we have around us, and blessed to have the people we have around us preparing the product as well. So I feel really good about the opportunity that we have here in Billings. I feel really great about the past year. With all the downs that we've had a lot of great local support, and we're blessed to have that as well.
I know when I came in, it was busy. There, you almost had to turn some people away at the door to, still keep some of the distancing in effect and all that.
Happy problems.
That's a good problem to have, that's for sure. Talk about the beef. There's good steaks. There's great steaks. You guys are taking the best of the best, and that's what you're focusing on here. Talk about the philosophy of the beef at the Buffalo Block.
I agree. One of the things that was really driven by our owner, Rick and Nikki Larson, was they wanted to bring a prime steakhouse to Billings, Montana. And as we were talking about before, there's lots of steakhouses all over, and they all fill a niche, and they all have a great product that they serve. We're trying to take the best possible product that we can get, in the sense that we're taking prime beef, which tends to be the top 3% of all beef produced here in the U.S. We're sourcing it regionally, so here as local as we possibly can get, and we're taking that, and not only are we wet aging that for 30 days and butchering that in-house, but we're also taking that a step above, and we're dry aging those steaks, and we're doing that from 21 to 30 days or so. So some of our steaks will have up to 60 days of age on them before we're taking them and butchering them, and having our great grill cooks cook them on our Argentine grill.
This is really like the science of beef here, especially for those ranchers out there who really know their beef. I mean, you can get the wet aged, or you can get the dry aged, and then your bartenders, they're like mixologists in here as well.
We're really lucky to have great bartenders. We've got Bradley Mose, who's local here, born and raised here in Billings, Montana, but has traveled around, and gosh, he's worked in Los Angeles, he's worked in Las Vegas. He's got some great experience he's bringing to our bar, and really spearheading that craft cocktail program.
When we talk about a flame grilled steak, you guys really mean a flame grilled steak.
We do.
We're talking actual wood, actual fire.
Yes, sir.
For your steaks.
So that's one of the things that, again, our owner Rick and Nikki Larson, they've traveled the world. They've seen some really cool methods of cooking. And one of the things that they fell in love with was right behind us. It's an Argentine grill. So an Argentine grill basically is a grill with grates that are movable, and we have a little crank and a gear that brings the grates further or closer to the flame as the grill cook sees necessary. We're using blue oak, which is sourced from Northern California. We get that It's a variant of white oak. Burns at a really high temperature, really high BTU, which enables our grill cooks to get a great sear on there and a nice char without overcooking or burning the steaks. Yeah, it's something that we're definitely proud of.
I was joking with our crew here from the Billings Chamber of Commerce. I want some of that wood for my camper when I go camping, because it's just got such a nice smell that just kind of fills the room as well. Add a steak in a mix. Well, Mitch, the general manager here, thanks for the hospitality.
No.
You talked about the crank on that grill. Why don't we crank it up a notch, take them inside the kitchen, go meet the chef. Well, of course, it's Egg Celebration Week, and we're taking you inside some of the coolest kitchens in Billings. We're here with Chef James Brown at the Buffalo Block. And I know you cowboys watching right now, you're really going to love this steak he's got for you, not just because it's some good beef. We got a cowboy ribeye. Chef, thanks for having us in the kitchen here with you.
Welcome to the Buffalo Block Kitchen. We're excited to have you guys in today. Got a couple of great pieces of beef here that we've aged in-house. Got a bone-in cowboy ribeye and a bone-in Kansas City strip. So we're doing all the aging of the beef in-house. We're trying to source as much beef through Montana as possible. Trying to keep with that local flavor. And so today we're just going to kind of give you some grilling tips on how to really maximize the flavor of this great steak. So basically, the key to a good steak is getting a really good sear on your steak. So to make that possible, you got to have a really hot fire. So here at the Buffalo Block, we have a wood burning grill. We use a blue oak, and it's got a really high temperature, high BTU burn on it. So it creates a lot of firepower, and it's got a really nice smoke to it as well. So a good way to tell the temperature of your grill itself is to just test it with a little bit of oil. So the difference between like a wood burning grill and a gas grill that you have at home, your gas grill at home is going to have a lot more even kind of distribution of the heat. Whereas this, the hot spots are all over the place, just kind of depending on where the log is. So the way I got the fire built up is more kind of a hot spot towards the back, and then it's a little bit cooler as you work your way forward. So the idea is that I'm going to kick it back there to the back, sear it really hard, and then kind of drag it to the fork and let it slowly kind of come up in temperature. So that way you're getting a little bit more even cook to it, and you're developing some really good flavor by the searing of the meat over the high heat itself. So another big factor in making a really good steak is the amount of seasoning you put on it. Some people like to marinate steaks, this and that. If you got a really good piece of meat, the last thing you want to do is cover up the flavor. In my opinion, we just use salt and pepper here. So depending on the cut of beef you have, these two in particular have a pretty good amount of marbling to them. So there's a certain amount of fat that's already on the meat itself, which will kind of help it from sticking when you hit it on the grill. We're going to take our steak. We like to use a really coarse salt. So the best way to season a piece is to really raise it up high so you get a little bit of spread from the air itself naturally. So just raising it up. Pretty good coating on there. And then the pepper as well is kind of important. You don't want a really fine pepper, and you don't want it too coarse as well, because if it's too coarse, like something like that, might crack your tooth. Okay? So there is a balance. And you see steaks on TV or something like that, they'll have perfect grill marks where they'll make X's and that's great. But the main thing you want to do is make sure that you're developing a good sear on your steak. So again, we found kind of where our hot spot is. So we're just going to go to that kind of medium range heat area to where we're going to get a pretty good sear, but it's not really going to immediately catch on fire. So you can kind of using all your senses when you're cooking. You can hear that all the fat's already starting to render immediately when it hits the grill, so you know things are happening. See kind of some of the smoke starting to render off of the touch. And what we can do, if you really want to make those nice looking grill marks, is you have your angle, and And then when you make your turn on your steak, you're going to turn it about 45 degrees. So the question is, when do you make that turn? And that's all going to determine on how hot your fire is, of course. So what you can do, you know, in all these situations is kind of use these bone pieces as your pivot point on your angle. So we can kind of lift it up just a little bit, take a little peek. Not quite the sear we want, we're just sitting right back down on that spot. And then when we see it starting to kind of develop a little bit of color that we want, we'll give it a spin. So I'm just going to kind of use those. That was just a little better. I'm going to go ahead, just give it a little turn right there. Wait for this one to go up. If I don't, you know, say this, it's feeling like it's a little cooler right there, and I maybe want to speed up the sear a little bit. I'm just going to get it a little bit closer to the heat. Now you can kind of see some of that fat starting to render on there, so it's kind of catching back up to the right speed. So we spun our cowboy ribeye here. Now the ribeye itself is going to have a little bit more fat distributed throughout the muscle, and that's going to cause the meat itself to cook a little bit faster. You got more fat in the meat itself. Once it gets hot, it'll really go from 0 to 60 real fast.
And that strip, many people have heard of a New York strip. That's a Kansas City strip. The difference again being,
okay, so the difference in that is a New York strip is going to be a boneless loin, and then a Kansas City strip is going to have the bone in it. So we've taken the bone-in loin and then aged it in our cooler, and we're starting to get a little bit of caramelization there. And I'm going to keep it on the other side there another few minutes. We'll take a peek at this one right here, kind of using that back pivot point right there. Just take a look. It's got a pretty good sear on it, but we're going to want a little bit more. We'll try to take it as far as we can and get a char on it. You know, there's a real fine line between charred and burned. So that's the game right there. Okay, so we got our steaks on the grill here, and we're finishing them up on the second side that we cooked them on. So now we're kind of looking for some signs of doneness. So one thing that happens when the muscle gets onto the heat, as it's cooking, the muscle will start to tighten up. And how tight it is will kind of give you a clue to how far along it is in the cooking process. And a kind of an easy way to gauge it is almost to hold your hand, make a fist, and not squeeze. And when you push in on your thumb, it's really soft. That's about rare. Kind of make a fist and clench it, and you feel that, that's about mid-rare. And as you kind of ball your fist up as hard as you can, that's well. And everything in between is kind of your medium to mid-well. So it is going to tighten up. Once you get to a certain temperature, you know, about 125 degrees, it's going to want to start, the muscle will tighten up so much that it's going to want to push out the blood a little bit. And you're going to know, if you see blood pushing out of the muscle, you've already gone past mid-rare. You're kind of near medium. You're about 130, 135 degrees. So from that point on, you see the blood push out. If you're looking for mid-well, you're just going to want to slow roll it and let that blood that pushes out just slightly kind of get to a pinkish hue. And it just starts almost getting clear. That's going to be your mid-well. And then if you want to cook it well done, then you just slow roll it and let the juices push out to where it's all the way clear, and then you'll know it's completely cooked through. That's kind of the best way to judge it. Now you can feel on these, this strip right here feels kind of tight. I will say this, you can see on this strip here that the bone comes all the way down the back side of it, and the muscle is attached to that bone the whole way. So it can't really pull from that. So it's going to have a feeling of a little bit tighter than the ribeye will itself, just because the bone only touches that front little lip right there. So this one will give you a kind of a false sense of it getting tighter than it really is. So in that case right there, what I always do is cook it to the tightness that I think it's supposed to be at, and then you go and put it on that bone side, flat side right there. And once that bone starts getting hot, it's going to kind of push that heat through the muscle and kind of distribute it, and it's going to kind of even up that cook on there. If I was cooking this in a cast iron pan, I would have started on that fat cap, so I could have got some rendering on there, and then my side to side, and then finished on that other side of the bone. So I would, if I had to guess, it's probably about 90 to 100 degrees right there. So we're like rare to mid-rare. I'm gonna pull that off. This one right here is mid-rare. Let's get a little bit closer. And so what I'm doing with my tongs is I'm kind of feeling how tight that muscle is getting throughout the cooking process. You can see that this one right here has a lot more resistance than this one does. Look. Kind of see just a little bit right in there. There's a little bit of moisture kind of starting to push out right there, and that's the blood I was talking about. So we're getting pretty close to right where we want to be. We've developed a really, really beautiful sear on there without letting it go too far. And so we're going to pull this meat off and let it rest, 2 to 3 minutes. Let all the liquids inside of them kind of redistribute. And that way when we slice the meat, if the muscle is too tight, it'll push out some of that blood and you can actually miss a temp. So say you cooked it to medium perfectly, but you sliced it too fast or too quick, it could bleed out on you and you've got a mid-weld then. So it's really all about how tight that muscle gets, letting it relax, and then slicing it, okay?
Well, normally you got to go to the big city to find this, and even in the big cities to find prime, dry aged steaks. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find steaks like this anywhere in the state or in the region. This is just incredible. Not just a New York strip, a Kansas City strip, and of course for you cowboys out there, the cowboy ribeye right in front of us here. Incredible time down here at the Buffalo Block. We want to say a big thanks to the general manager, to Mitch, and the whole crew, Chef James, and of course everybody here at the Buffalo Block, and also to our crew from the Billings Chamber of Commerce and Yellowstone Valley Electric Cooperative. We're going to be taking you inside some more cool kitchens here in Billings as we celebrate you. We celebrate the great farmers and ranchers out there. While we take a quick break, we're going to dive into these incredible steaks down here at the Buffalo Block. Thanks for being with us.